150 million seniors in India, which will be very soon 300 million, and globally 1.2 billion seniors, where the biggest problem of what we think is health, actually it's loneliness.
And what are some of the factors and traits that you've seen in a successful founder that you think kind of distinguishes them apart from the rest?
There was a complaint against me that I was too harsh, and I was like, I was doing my job. And sorry if I was very straightforward, but that is what my role is. Don't start your startup just because you think that you'll get funded.
You will get the real answer off camera. Hi, welcome back to FounderPod. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Sunil Khosla. So can you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Karishma. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunil Khosla. I'm a young entrepreneur with 25 years of work experience. I think I'm very proud that I moved from a corporate world after 2 decades to first build something of my own and then help others build something what they wanted to build. Currently, I have 2 things going on. One is we've got an age-tech startup called the Smiling Souls, where it's all about bringing happiness and wellness to senior citizens, currently starting in India. Second one is we've got a business growth accelerator called Unicorn Next, where the aspiration is to help more and more startups, scale-ups and SMEs to accelerate their business either in India, which is the biggest market in the world right now, or to other key markets like Europe, North America and Australia. And I think it's about the bridge where a lot of startups or scale-ups want to come from those countries to India and vice versa. So these are the 2 things going on. Apart from that, I keep myself busy in terms of being with the ecosystem as a mentor. So I'm a mentor with multiple organizations in India and outside. It's not only about teaching them, but it's also about our own self-learning. Because in today's world, when things are changing so drastically, you also learn a lot from new age startups or founders. I'm very happy that I'm able to do both. So these are the main things that I'm doing right now.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot.
Thank you.
So can you tell me, I have to touch base on this to begin with. Can you tell me more about your transition going from corporate to becoming an entrepreneur and the risk?
So it all started, I don't want to sound very cliche, but I think the seed started somewhere in COVID time when, in spite of the COVID time, we were still going to office because we were part of the essential services, and as part of the leadership team, we wanted to be in the office because our field team is also in the office. And that time when there were very few people in office and you had a lot of time to ponder in terms of what's happening right now, where is the world going right now. The first thing that we started actually was a social initiative. By that time, there was nothing about Unicorn Next or anything. And I have a very, very special inclination towards senior citizens and disabled people. And me and another friend of mine, we started a social initiative called the Smiling Souls, absolutely with a simple focus in terms of keeping the seniors happy and motivated during those tough times when nobody was knowing what will happen to the world. And it was still easy for people like us who were allowed to go outside. But if you remember that anyone who's above 60, they were not even allowed to go outside and they were confined to a room. So it started with the building of a social initiative, which we continued for 3 years. But then gradually, I was also starting to think about where am I heading to after two decades plus in the corporate world in leadership positions, building a lot of brands, building a lot of businesses, building a lot of teams. What more can I do? And I've always loved multitasking. And what do I do where I continue to do more things about different kind of businesses? Agri-tech was coming up, health tech was coming up. There were multiple businesses, and still be close to the reality, which is sales, distribution, go-to-market, marketing, which are my core functional areas. And that is where I thought that, and I was always part of a lot of incubators and accelerators as a mentor. I've been privileged to be part of a lot of juries, moderating, speaking, this and that. And so I was always part of a startup ecosystem. So it came naturally that, can I do something with these founders? Though I started only with startups, later on it converted into scale-ups and SMEs and more. And it should not be only about consulting, which is not bad, but it gives you direction, or about only funding. It should be more than that, where a lot of young founders or even the new founders, they don't have a good co-founder or they don't have a big team. So can we use our experience, can we use our legacy in terms of helping them scale up in the real sense, which is quite accepted in the Western world. In India, it's still a new trend that somebody can come along with you, not as an employee, but as a business accelerator and assist you in growth. So that is where it came, the idea came. And then 2022 was when I quit the corporate world. And 23, I started both Unicorn Next and Smiling Souls formally. And very happy that I'm able to do both. Yeah, that's it.
What I really am curious about is what is the difference between consulting an organization, a whole company, and a founder? Are they prone to taking advice? Are they apprehensive?
No, so of course, I think founders these days are very smart, and there are a lot of good organizations in India and outside there. There is a genuine initiative to help founders. Most of them are incubators, and I'm part of few of the incubators. And I think that's a very, very big initiative, some by government, some by private bodies. Then there are external consultants, and I'm also consultant with a few companies where it's more about giving them a direction, telling them what's right, what's wrong. But not doing it yourself, right? And of course, that's also a very good thing. But we were very clear right from the beginning that we want to take a path where we are with them throughout the journey, in the good times, in the bad times, and that's why a business growth accelerator is one where I don't want to use this word, but you can call it a fractional CEO or a fractional CMO or a fractional CBO, but taking the bus with them and being with them throughout the journey. And so basically, we take ownership of numbers or initiatives depending on the relationship that we have, and then take it along. So that's the difference between consulting or a business growth accelerator.
And when you're mentoring founders, are they more open to taking advice like company heads, like a CEO or a CMO would?
So that depends, of course. When it's only mentoring, a lot of people are ready to take free advice, and people are smart enough to understand that this will ultimately help them. But if you ask about a commercial model, I think that's a weak area right now. Sorry to say, but a lot of young founders, especially, they still think that it's not worth it, and they would like to delay it. But trust me, whether it's finding the right co-founder or finding the right coach or finding the right accelerator, you would need someone to take your journey along. So I think there is a gap which needs to be improved.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, the ecosystem is a bit fragmented at the moment. Can you tell me a bit more about why do you want to help seniors? That's a very niche market.
So there is a personal angle behind that, both for me and my co-founder. My father has been a Parkinson patient for 12 years now. He's in stage 5, and I remember since my childhood, he's been a business person. He's built factories. He's done very good, hardworking stuff. And now when he's in this condition, he needs a lot of support, more mental rather than physical. And same way, my co-founder, her mother has mobility challenges, and there are lakhs of seniors in India. We're talking about roughly around 150 million seniors in India, which will be very soon 300 million, and globally 1.2 billion seniors. And where the biggest problem, what we think is health, actually it's loneliness. So there are 3 big problems which are creeping up in India and outside: health, senior living, and wellness or emotional wellness. So we are trying to cater to the third one, where we want to spend maximum time with them every day, to feel them alive. We call that engagement, so that the loneliness portion is decreased. So that's the first bit that we do. We also understand 60 is the new 40, 80 is the new 60, and they, apart from just living or existing or engaging, a lot of them still have a lot of aspirations, a lot of dreams, right? So we've got a module called empowerment, where we have got 3-4 IPs. One of them is a senior podcast, which is already becoming a rage globally, in terms of helping them pushing their voice to other seniors. Then we've got something called Senior Talent Contest, which we started way back, even COVID time, even in the social initiative, where they still love to perform whether it's singing, dancing, shairi or anything, and they still love to compete. In fact, a lot of times they'll ask, "मैं first क्यों नहीं आई? मैं first क्यों नहीं आया?" And this and that, which is because after a while they also become a kid, right? So I think this piece that if there's a very, very big one which is intergenerational, right from baby boomers to Gen Y or Gen Z. If all three and move beyond that segments, if they don't work together, very soon India, which is currently the youngest country in the world, will become the oldest country in the world in the next 2 decades, I believe. If we are not working together, then it'll be a tough time. Thankfully, there are multiple initiatives taken in the country by both government and organizations where they are catering to it. But we, our startup, which is called the Smiling Souls, we are doing a small bit in terms of our aspiration is to reach 1 million seniors very soon. And I think we're doing a decent job in scaling this now, coming from India and very soon moving to the Indian diaspora and selected geographies.
Wow, that's amazing. So when it comes to senior living, I mean, that's a concept that's foreign to India because, as you know, culturally, we tend to, live with our parents throughout. So how did you disrupt that market? How were you able to test out whether that would actually work in this country?
So we don't do senior living at all.
Okay.
Though one of our modules is called Enablers, where we have very good industry partners, and we've got partners who have senior living.
Mhm.
It could be either a premium senior living or it could be a assisted living. So I believe this concept is catching up, and a lot of seniors are now understanding that if they're part of a good community, they're 10, 20, 30 as 40 as well, because the average age is also increasing. So acceptability is there because the Indian culture is little different. We still consider sending parents to a senior living as a taboo, and it's not a good thing. But genuinely, if it's meant for their betterment, and especially when the kids are not around, it's actually a good thing. So we do two things. One is enabling senior living through the platform, where we give different choices to the customer or their family. Second is we continue with our forte, which is engagement bit, in terms of engaging them. Because when they're in a senior living, also engagement becomes important. There are some critical moments in the day where they feel more lonely. So engagement still becomes a very important piece. So apart from enabling senior living as an ecosystem, we continue to give engagement to different senior living options in India.
And how did you validate your business model before you launched?
I don't know whether I should say this or not, but normally what you coach to others. In fact, when we started typically like a startup, right? And I have no shame in accepting that we also pivoted twice or thrice. Thankfully, because we started as a social initiative, and there's a very, very honest and detailed research of 3 years before we even kicked off. I think that helped us in terms of at least firming up the positioning, right? Because a lot of founders initially go wrong about the purpose of the positioning. And though we have done few pivots, but the main thing which was engaging, which is our forte, we are stick to that. There were issues, there are other things because it's a tech platform, and then we adapted more in-person meetings as well. So I think it came easy to us because of the personal story. With the research and the genuine engagement that we were doing during the social initiative. Scaling is, as usual, not easy. So like a typical startup, it takes 2 to 3 years to scale at a level that you want to scale. But because both the founders are mature enough, I think they know the rules of the game. We still have some hiccups, but now I think we are scaling up decently.
So coming on the topic of pivoting, what were you doing before you pivoted?
No, so pivoting meaning when we started only with engagement, and we thought that we will do only the virtual bit of engagement, and that should be enough. Because remember, we started during the COVID time, even if it's and we thought the world will remain like this. But then, of course, after 2022, things started improving, and seniors wanted more and more and more, and that is where we pivoted to another segment called empowerment, which is very, very niche one. And then we started more of in-person meetings and all. And by that time, and when I was out of the corporate world, it was important to build tech around it, because if you want to scale and scale faster, you need to make tech and simple tech for seniors. So we were busy. The next pivot was getting the tech ready, getting the partners ready, selection of right partners. Of course, money is important for everyone, but having empathy for this TG is equally important. So selection of partners took a lot of time, but today I think we are very happy to say the kind of partners that we have are not only the best in terms of the services or the products that they provide, but also having real empathy for the TG that we have. So these are the pivots and then there are a few more coming, which are slightly confidential as of now, but in the next few months you'll see that. One which I've already declared, which is reaching the Indian diaspora very soon, because there is a bridge that can be formed between Indian diaspora outside and the Indians in India, of course, the seniors I'm talking about. And then there's something very interesting we are doing with intergenerational, which I spoke about, which is baby boomers, Gen Y, and Gen Z. So, and there are a few other good initiatives around the platform.
Wow, these are very interesting. When can we keep a lookout for them?
It's already live. You can search with the Smiling Souls
Oh,
on Android Play Store or web application. We're doing decently well. And the good part is all the seniors attached to us, or most of them, they treat us like family, and that's our biggest victory. We don't know how much money we eventually make, but I think we've won a lot of hearts, and that's more important because money can come through other sources also. But this one is more about heart, and we will continue to impact. In fact, you said impact, though this is not the forum, but we are so proud of a lot of transformational impact stories that we've already created. That gives us a lot of joy. In spite of burning a lot of money or investing a lot of money, a lot of hours, a lot of days, nights, no weekends, nothing. Typical startup story, right? But when you see those transformation, including my own dad to an extent, and like co-founder's mother, I think you know that you're on the right track.
I mean, staying on the topic of pivoting, can you tell me a bit more about your mentees and, how have they pivoted their startups? And at what stage do you think it's crucial to pivot? When do you know your startup it needs pivoting, you're not in the right direction?
I think if you're talking, you need to be specific whether you're asking me as a mentor,
As a mentor.
as a coach, or as a Unicorn Next founder.
As a mentor.
So as a mentor, I think when someone is approaching you, most of the time they are already having an issue, which is absolutely fine. There are different data points that 90% startups fail, or 91 or 99. That doesn't matter, but it's not easy to succeed in today's competitive world, when, especially in a country like India, where a lot of youngsters now want to go take this route, which is good for the country. So I think the first point is when they come to us, we know that there is some issue. That's why they're coming to us. As a mentor, the first thing that we try and gauge is, are they telling us everything honestly or not? And it's not an easy job, let me tell you. I can't name the founders or company, but I'll tell you a very interesting and scary incident. I used to mentor regularly, and even now, whatever time is available. And there was this couple who was coming out of the corporate world, and both of them opted out of their corporate tenure and started something on their own. And they were not doing too well. And so the incubator where I am listed as a mentor, they requested me to take 4 sessions with them rather than 1 session. And I was about to go to Europe before, 2 days after that. I was like, 4 is too much because I've got a lot of other things, but I'll try. And then I had this first meeting, very, very educated couple, very good corporate background. And normally you go through the use case before you meet a mentee. In this case, because I was about to travel to Europe, so I probably could just glance through the use case. And during the conversation, I figured out what is happening. And one thing which I always do, either during my corporate time or even now, is absolutely calling spade a spade, which is giving a very, very honest feedback, whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
No sugarcoating.
Yeah, no sugarcoating. So I simply told them, this is not good enough. Because I was actually, I could see myself in their shoes, because they were also having, I think, more than 2 decades of corporate experience. I told them this is not working, because I also had experience in terms of other businesses around this, both during my corporate stint and my entrepreneurial stint. And I told them, This plus they were almost out of cash, and the runway that they had was at the best 2 to 3 months.
That's it.
That's it, and they had kids who were studying. So I told them this is not working, and I was straight. Then I told one of them that I think one of you should go back to the job market till the time this succeeds, because there is no shame or harm in terms of accepting that this, because if you're a founder, you don't need to succeed in your first stint, right? You can fail in the first one, you can fail in the second one, but you can succeed in the third one. It's like you should know what's happening. And then they took it wrongly, and then there was a complaint against me that I was too harsh, and I was like, I was doing my job, and sorry if I was very straightforward, but that is what my role is. If I tell them that things are fine, continue burning money, then I'm not doing my job. So you get these kind of incidents, and then there are founders who will, of course, value your time, and I give a lot of time, irrespective whether it's 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and including in-person meetings, and actually, it's a very happy feeling when few of your mentees succeed and or are pivoting as per your advice, because I think you have to live in a collaborative world. You can't live in silos, and you need to accept and respect experience and smart founders too.
What is your hot take on the fact that founders need to be thick-skinned in the ecosystem to actually start a company today?
I think yes. You need to be very, very tough mentally, and more mentally actually, because everyone knows that you need to spend 16, 18 hours a day, at least in the beginning. We already spoke about the corporate transition founder, where they also need to be grounded and humble, that in spite of all the experience that they have in building companies or brands, when they start their own startup, it's ground zero and they need to start from zero. So, and with the kind of numbers that are floating in, thousands of startups are opening every month. There is nothing called a new idea. It's always excellence in execution that works. So you have to be thick-skinned to survive in this jungle. It's a beautiful jungle, but not everyone will survive and thrive, right? So you need to be smart, you need to be hardworking, you need to be humble, grounded, thick-skinned, everything. And of course, there are many more things that you need to do. Then also the success is not guaranteed because the market changes quite frequently, but you have to be very, very adaptive. And failures will happen. Don't be scared, and don't show your emotions or failures to others. The reality is a lot of people will be happy about it. So you have to be in a very, very confined circle. Your product and your services should reach thousands and millions, but your ideas and your inner self should be confined to very few people.
That's a very interesting piece of advice.
Thank you.
So, in I want to know more about your experience mentoring. So, when you're mentoring your mentees, can you tell me a bit more about what are the horror stories you're seeing when it comes to pitch decks, co-founders, and the ecosystem fundamentals?
Whew.
That's a very crazy reaction.
No, so I think, and I love founders, but don't start your startup just because you think that you will get funded or you want funds. That's the biggest mistake that you can do. And a lot of stuff that comes on LinkedIn mostly these days, and sometimes WhatsApp as well, or email, is that, can you help us get funding? Now, that's the biggest problem. Then the second one is when you see pitch decks, in spite of ChatGPT, which are pathetic, you're like, if someone is approaching you, it's like when you go for an interview, you could come from any background, could come from tier 2, tier 3, or metro, doesn't matter. But you would want to be dressed in your best clothes, right? A simple white shirt and a black trouser is fine. But you would want to be looking the best.
Crisp.
So a pitch deck is like your dressing. If it's not polished, if it's not ironed properly, then the person in front of you will be not taking you seriously. Then don't even give a pitch deck. Find 1 minute where you can share the idea on WhatsApp or talk and try and convince them. Because a bad pitch deck would definitely take you out for a long time. And please understand, people like us or investors or VCs, they get thousands of pitch deck. So it's very tough. So the first impression that you make has to be very good. I don't want to go into the basics, which is how many slides, this and that. For different use cases, there are different kind of pitch decks. Sometimes there's an elevator pitch deck, sometimes there's a speed pitch deck, sometimes there is an exhaustive one, but give time to a pitch deck because they don't want to see the colors. They want to see whether you've been able to uh, paint your purpose, your thought process properly there or not. And then the basics like problem, solution, this and that. So I think there is still a lot of scope of improvement. But when you talk about people like incubators or us as a mentor, I think that is what our role is, to improve that.
And you're talking about pitch deck. So every pitch deck consists of a problem statement and a solution. While I've been networking over the last few months with a lot of founders, one thing I've noticed is a couple of founders have built solutions with no active problems. So, what is your take on that? Like they've developed AI tools that do really amazing stuff, but there's no real problem. There's no consumer who would pay for that solution.
Yeah, so in fact, I can tell you a real use case. We have a client, a Europe-based client. I cannot, of course, name the client. They have B2B SaaS product.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, a very good human being, a very good person, first-time founder, not a young founder, of course. Very, very passionate about his solution because coming from that kind of background. But what we quickly realized is that he's so fascinated by the solution that he was not able to understand the changes in the problem itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he started building the solution 3 years back, the problem was something else. Today, the problem itself has changed. So, and you need to tweak it now. Of course, we are now tweaking it with him, and we are sure that things will improve. But a lot of money, sweat, and effort has gone in terms of building that solution before we even came into picture. And a lot of time that is the case where it's become a fashion that I'm building this and I don't care about what the problem is or who would this benefit. So sometimes that can click, right? But a lot of time it may not, because ultimately it's a very, very basic philosophy that you are building anything because there is a problem or an opportunity in the market.
Correct.
Right? If that is not scanned enough, then it's tough that you start straight away with the solution.
That's actually very true. And I feel like a lot of founders lose sight of that to begin with. Like you said, the entire problem changed over the years. It could be for various reasons, right? Regulatory, compliance, etc., etc. But I feel like that would be the right time to pivot, right? Because the applicability of the solution would change, but it would still apply somewhere else.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, that is where, and that is where our role also comes in at Unicorn Next, where because we come more from a business side and most of the founders are tech founders, we tell them that the proof of concept lies with when you go to the consumer or prospect, right? And a lot of people will say, especially if you're doing the low-hanging fruit thing, that how's my product or how's my solution? They will say, wow, you build a very good thing, but they will not buy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest check is someone buying it? And gone are the times of a product market fit. Today it's BMF, which is business model market fit, right? Your model has to work. So the moment you do your first 5 calls or 10 calls with a product that you've made, and you should quickly go back to the drawing board in terms of, no, this is not working, or this is not enough. And when I was quoting about my own startup, we did the same, that this is not enough. So what is the point if this is not enough? So you have to be very, very adaptive, especially in today's world. And I don't want to talk about OpenAI, but The reality is it exists and it will flourish, and it has to be embedded in almost everything that you do. So if you've not done that earlier, do it now, because time won't wait. Your solution is not unique. There are 100 more who are building the same thing in a more smarter way. So that is where our role comes in terms of getting them the right customer insight, doing the right research, and then taking it live to the market, giving them the right feedback, the honest feedback, irrespective whether they continue with us or not, because of course there is a commercial deal between us and them. But if we tell them the wrong thing, then the future itself is bleak. So we tell them the right thing, that we have tested your product for 3 months, 4 months. We believe it needs a pivot, and a lot of time we are also handling their marketing, so it becomes easy for us to reposition it or to re-strategize it. And if they are smart founders, they will accept. We have a situation where sometimes because there are cash flow issues, then we have to halt in between and wait for the funding to come. But I think that acceptability of reality, that this is not enough or this is not the right thing, has to be with every founder.
And at what stage do you see founders coming to you? Is it in ideation? Is it in early when they're seeing things going wrong?
With Unicorn or as a mentor?
As a mentor with Unicorn, when do you mainly
Any
see
stage,
founders coming?
any stage. With Unicorn, of course, nobody will come to us at an idea stage. Sometimes they do that. This is for example, when we are working with SMEs, SMEs will come with an idea which is more about a transformation into something else, right?
Right.
They already have an established business, but they now want to start something else. But it's very rare that a startup founder would come to us commercially and say that, let's build it. Can you build it for me? We have use cases. In fact, we have taken 2 mandates, but normally it's something is already there. They've tested, they've tried, it's not happening. And then they come to us that, and of course, we are also a little selective in terms of whom to take, whom not to take. And we can discuss that later on, but they will come when things are not fine.
So, as a personal mentor, what is your approach when you're talking to an ideation stage founder and someone who's already launched their startup and trying to scale now?
Also, when it's in the ideation stage, I think because the burning is less, depending on what kind of product it is, you have more time in terms of telling them that this is the right approach, this is the right timelines, because they're still at least not burning money. But when the product is already out in the market, there are 2 problems. One is they continue to burn, and second is there are customers, live customers, who are using their product or service.
So it becomes time sensitive.
Not only time sensitive, if there is a need to fix something, and like if you're not fixing, then every new customer is getting the wrong side of your product or service. Which means a negative virality. So that is why we always say that you do your prototyping or hypothesis testing, or do your small POC and then scale, then scale, then scale. That is the reason that this is one thing that does not change, that still do small POCs before you scale, test it out. So I think that is the difference between an ideation stage and a scale-up stage. While when you're doing transformation or when you're doing a cross-market scenario, it completely changes, because if something is working in India and someone wants to launch in UK, then we will not commit that we'll launch in UK tomorrow. You need to understand that market from that perspective, that industry perspective. There are regulatory challenges, compliance challenges. The market behaves very differently. There are other things. So when you do a cross-border thing, the normal window is 3 to 6 months at least.
And for bootstrap founders, what do you recommend when you think it's the right time to start fundraising?
Why is it important every time?
So you think they can survive just on bootstrapping and then eventually?
It depends. Why not? It depends. The point is, and if you need fund to scale, or if you need growth capital, it's good capital. Don't take funding to build your business, because then you will get used to money which is not yours, and you may overspend it. And a founder is the CEO also, is everything, right? So the bare minimum thing that they can get is some capital to start with. And today, these days, there are a lot of grants which are available from the government side or private or some institutions, which are smaller amount but good amount for you to start your thing, right? Use that, and then once you've got good traction, once there are good validation happening, To scale and to do growth, you should take capital. That is why we never, in fact, we used to do more of funding or get more of funding arranged. But now we're saying that let's make you fundable.
Mm-hmm.
Let us take you to a level of GTM and numbers where when we go to investors together, they'll be like, wow, good numbers. That should be the approach rather than funding first.
And in terms of bootstrapping, I mean, there's only so much they can put in, right? Yes, it helps them bring in discipline on terms of how they spend their own money and how careful they are with spending. But eventually they're going to run out. So at those points, besides grant, and if they're not fundraising, what do you think? What is the next step for them?
I think, thankfully, because a lot of people now understand startup, we always suggest to do a friends and family round. It really helps. Without mere dilution or with dilution, that doesn't matter, because there are people who would bet on you at an entry level, and their expectation is also not that much. Their expectation is that you should succeed. So you should always start with that first, and then probably move to an angel round, and then the business will talk. So there are multiple ways these days, but nothing is guaranteed. And even when you get your first grant and or your first friends and family round, please understand this money is for a confined activity and period. You cannot just hire 20 more people. You cannot have a very big office. It's absolutely fine working out of a co-working space. We still do that, right? So spend your money in terms of building the right solution and scaling. That's the right approach to take.
And what are some key learnings that you had in your corporate time that you think really helped shape your success as a founder?
Uh, I think the biggest one is resilience. Plus the basic principles of distribution or marketing or go to market, they never change. A very simple thing of A/B testing multiple things, doing prototyping or the POC that I was talking about. So plus we also know that not everything will succeed. I remember my first job with ITC where we were the blessed ones to be part of so many historic launches, including Ashura Data, Sunfeast Biscuits, Fiamma Devils, so a lot of categories, right? Even with the kind of muscle and strength of ITC, every launch took time, right? Because it's absolutely normal. So that is what we learned from our corporate thing, that things will take time. Even if the penetration levels are low, that doesn't mean that you will get a 10x share immediately, because you still have to go through that basic stage of AIDA, which is awareness, interest, desire, action. And the customer is still the same, right? In fact, it's becoming more challenging because he or she's got many more options now.
True.
So I think we are more basic oriented. We meaning someone who's coming from a corporate world. We try and stay grounded. Sometimes we also fly, we also fall. But and of course, the biggest strength is the network that we can use or should use. For Unicorn, for example, a big strength for me, or the team that I have, or the associates that I have, is someone that used to work, or most of them used to work with me earlier, or the distribution system that we got is the legacy distribution that we used to have. So those are the things that you take along when you're building a business.
So actually touching base on network, there's a very famous saying in the industry, network is equal to net worth.
Yeah.
So a lot of founders fail to see how important it is to network, or do not know how to begin. You know, they'll attend a couple of networking events and claim, oh, I'm done with my fair share of networking. So what are your suggestions or recommendations for someone to start networking, building the right set of, foundation to help you in your journey?
I think if you would have asked me this 3-4 years back, my answer would have been different. Today, there is another problem of plenty.
Saturation.
No, they are attending too many events.
Okay.
And they're meeting too many people. There's no harm, right? But where is the follow-up? Where is the nurturing of those leads or connections? What next? What next? What next? If you don't close it, then you can continue to meet thousands of people and leverage nothing. Plus, every smile or every clap is not good for you. Sometimes someone who's criticizing you or showing you the mirror is a better person. So meet those kind of people more, right? But I think it's important. I'm not against networking, but today, if it is not right or relevant networking, then you're wasting your time. So, as a founder, you should be smart enough whom to network with, where to go, where not to go, where to go next. Follow up is very important. So, I think this is the main piece now. And for example, in my case also now, I used to be a speaker in multiple events or a jury or a moderator. Now I have to say no because I've got dual responsibility. One is towards my client in Income Next. Second is to build my H6 startup and then also get some time to mentor. Not that I don't like speaking or, in fact, as we speak, I'm a jury in one of the biggest health tech innovation in the finales in US. And there were 1,500 applications and I've evaluated many along with other jury members. That I like. Why I do take out time for that, even if it is 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. Because this is health tech innovation, which is one of my favorite field, with AI included, and it is helping the world. So I will go through the pain in terms of going through all the pitches, understanding what is happening in the world, applauding the spirit of those founders, global founders, because I'm also a student there, right? So I find time for that. And in fact, I'm now doing a lot of virtual networking more than the physical one because it saves me a lot of time.
Actually, I was literally about to touch base on exactly this. That what is your hot take on virtual networking? Do you think it carries the same impact, and you can make use of it as much as like physical in-person networking?
Actually, more.
More, really.
I'm also a board advisor to a few companies, and a lot of advisors meet. Most of it is virtual. I still love in-person meetings, but I think the first meeting or the second meeting could easily be virtual. When you find those connections worthwhile, then definitely go for an in-person meeting. I remember a few months back, I was in UK. I was in Europe for a month again, and I had to meet two people in Netherlands. I spent a lot of money just to ensure that I go there and meet. They were like, "You could have done this virtually." I was like, "No, I'm happy to take," and I took a train which I like, and I was there. The travel time was more than the meeting time, but it was absolutely worth it because we were closing something. So you can absolutely start confidently virtually, and then take it to in person if needed. But virtual is very good.
And what are some of the factors and traits that you've seen in a successful founder that you think kind of distinguishes them apart from the rest?
So everybody will talk about, of course, purpose. I think purpose has to be there. A lot of people will talk about resilience, but it is not the resilience that you tell people that yes, I have a lot of patience, but it's the actual one that you should possess. The third one, which people not normally talk about, and it's very important for us both as a mentor and as Unicorn Next, is coachability, which is acceptance that I'm ready to listen to you. And that problem persists with many people.
Like the couple you mentioned earlier.
No, they were not. They had no adversity about coachability. That was more about why are you saying that this idea is not good enough or this business is not good enough. They were very happy to listen, but so what's happening is, and it's not confined to any particular age. It's like I'm the founder. I know what I'm doing. You don't preach me. If you have that approach, then nobody can help you. Today in this world, you need a right team member. Sometimes you need a right co-founder. So either have a right co-founder or don't have a co-founder at all. You need the right mentor, and you definitely need a right coach or a business accelerator, because you can't hire 10 team members and pay them 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs a month. So at a fraction of cost, if you can take services which are better than employees, then why not? So accept and go forward. I think that is a trait that we look forward, especially when we onboard someone in Unicorn Next, which is, do they have traits of coachability? Yes, of course, there will be difference of opinion that if we tell them something as they are with the business owners, they have the right. But it should always be logic first and business first, because when we enter into that relationship, for us also the success of that business is more important. So I think these are the three things, which is purpose, resilience, and coachability.
So now we're going to move on to the game segment of the show. So right now I'm going to give you two placards. One says hype and the other says hoax. So ideally, what you have to do is I'll be giving out a statement. You just have to show the camera which placard you most agree with and elaborate in one sentence why. Hype being you think it's worth the hype, which is a
It's
good
worth
thing,
the- Okay.
and hoax being you think it's a hoax, which is not a good thing.
Okay. So hoax is negative, hype is good.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll keep the hype one on the right hand side and hoax on the left hand side. Okay.
Okay. So for the first one, non-alcoholic drinks will outgrow beer in India's metros.
Both, sorry. I think both the categories are, though I don't drink myself, but there is definitely, as India's GDP is growing and the youngest country of the youngest country of the world, I think both categories will grow. But I know I was supposed to say only one line, but I think the the product or the companies also have a lot of responsibility in terms of giving the right product.
I think Kava is a good example of this, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting. Okay. So for number two, age tech super apps can scale faster than health tech clinics.
Though I have a age tech startup, but I believe the penetration levels are so low and the need towards senior ecosystem is so high that both of them would flourish and should flourish. So I can't be selfish. So I'll say that both of them should do well and would do well.
Okay. Fair enough. For the third one, India UK FTA will meaningfully reduce CAC for cross border D2C.
So I think it's a good thing. So which is so it's still taking shape. There are still some processes which are about to finalize, but it'll be a very good thing for the India UK bridge. I think both the markets are absolutely fantastic and they've got their own strengths. And it's not only the CAC that we should be worried about, but there is a big market both ways that people should capture. And because we play part in that, I can definitely tell you that in the next 2-3 years, a lot of businesses, founders will benefit both ways.
So you agree it's worth the hype?
Absolutely.
Finally, I thought you were a very diplomatic man.
I agree to this.
Okay. For the fourth one, GST 2.0 actually moves the needle for startups, not just headlines.
No, I think yes. And this is only a beginning. I think everyone is learning and adapting. We should always take the good parts about any policy and changes, but more is supposed to come. So we need to be optimistic. So we all know that there's enough initiative from the government side to push this sector and a lot of initiatives by other sectors as well. So yes, it's a good hype.
So you think it's worth the hype?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's worth
so
the hype.
that about concludes this segment. I will just get the placards from you and we'll move on to the next one. So out here again, I'll just put out 4 simple statements and you just have to agree or disagree and elaborate why.
So I agree. It's good. Okay.
Okay. So for the first one, virality matters less than owning your own distribution and IP.
Actually, sorry, I'm again diplomatic. It depends on what product service that you're talking about. A lot of time it still is about the distribution. A lot of time it could be only virality, and a lot of time it could be both. So because you've not quoted me any product or service, I can't give one answer. But depending on the business, both are very important.
So you think it depends on the sector and the product?
Yes.
Okay.
And a combination of both of them are like very good.
Interesting.
Because virality is the fastest mode of distribution, at least to the consumer, right? So why not?
Interesting. Okay. So for the second one, and this is going to be very interesting, founders should expand to Europe before the US.
Sorry, again diplomatic, but it again depends. Your product or service is more suited towards Europe market or US market. What is the compliance thing there? What is the regulatory thing there? For example, if you're doing something in health tech, the approvals in US could take more time, which is fine. So it all depends on what service or what you are. We are working with multiple companies and we sometimes test them the US market or the Europe market or UK. It all depends in terms of what is the need. Is speed the need? Is faster penetration the need? It all depends on that. Both markets are very good. One of them is the biggest market in the world. Second is an upcoming market, especially with this new FTA. So sorry, but both.
Okay, so for anyone who wanted a real answer to that, I think you need to visit him and get some mentorship.
Absolutely. All
You'll get the real answer off camera. Okay, so for the third one, government or CSR pilots beat VC money at seed stage.
You need to elaborate on this.
So basically, what this is trying to say is that VC money at seed stage is not as important as it would be for government or CSR pilots, pilot projects and stuff like that.
No, first of all, not every project can be given a CSR funding. But as I quoted earlier, I will agree to this part is that when it's the beginning, the grant should be good enough and to start with. And when you scale, you would need VC at the right time. So if it is only at a seed stage or even or pre-seed, I think try and hustle through the government grants and other things. And then when it is big, when it is bigger fundable, go to VC with this, your collars high and your sleeves rolled. That I've proved it. I've got the traction now. Let's go for bigger amount.
That would also help them with equity negotiation, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely, yes.
Interesting. Okay. And for the last one, tier 2 cities are now better beachheads than Mumbai or Delhi.
I think it's not a fair. It's not a fair comparison. In one word, answer is yes, because the penetration levels were low. So Bangalore, Mumbai, the bigger hubs of startup world, even other metros, because they started earlier. But we all know the kind of population and the talent that we have in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And now the reachability of a lot of organizations or companies has increased. A lot of centers are there. Universities are playing a very big role. So you see more news coming from those sectors, but they were always there. It's just that the first mover advantage happened with metros, but now everybody is catching up and everybody's equal. That's amazing. So there's no discrimination here. I forgot to ask you this one particular topic that I want to kind of touch base on. So can you name a health startup pattern that you look for in 30 seconds today? Yes, we are building one. Can't name that segment. It's a big one happening both in India and outside. So I'll tell you the name in the next 6 months. Okay, so sure. In the next 6 months we'll do episode 2. And your platform will be the first one where we'll reveal it. Promise. Okay, this entire episode is proof. Yeah, that's done. Right. Okay, so that about concludes it. Thank you everybody for watching. And Mr. Sunil, if anybody wants to reach out to you for mentorship, guidance, where can they reach out? Firstly, thank you so much, Karishma. I think it's a fantastic platform where you connect both investors and mentors and the founders. You can reach me on LinkedIn, of course. You can email me at sunil.khosla@unicornnext.com, which is sunil.khosla at unicorn, unicorn next, next.com. If it is about a startup or if it's about mentorship, if it's about anything linked to my HTech startup, where you could be a brand, there could be collaborative in nature, you could reach me at sunil.khosla@thesmilingsouls.com, which is THE Smiling Souls SOULS.com, where you can more about Bob. You can do more for seniors, and of course, phone number I'm not allowed to give. I'll not give for now, right? So email should be good enough, but you can reach me on LinkedIn, of course, and I'm absolutely approachable on LinkedIn. I try and answer most of the things if I get time. Make sure you have high coachability levels if you're going to in for mentorship, though. Yeah, acceptability also. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.